great pleasure to introduce Howard Bunsis, who's come out from Eastern Michigan University to give us the results of his independent financial analysis of California State University, East Bay.
The goal here is to show you the financial condition of the CSU system and East Bay. Anyway, this is the system, everybody together. And the system has 11, this is in thousands, so you add 3 zeros to this. So you take this number, you add 3 zeros. So that's 11.8, almost $12 billion of assets. And about less than $6 billion of liabilities. In this world, in the government world, the difference between assets and liabilities is called net assets. The system's not broke. They've got net assets that are half of total assets. Any claim that the system is broke, it just needs to stop. Just don't say stuff like that, because it's not true. The CSU system, at the end of 2010, had almost $1.5 billion in unrestricted net assets. That's right, $1.5 billion in unrestricted net assets. They will claim you can't touch that money. You know what? Then what do you have it for? Then what's it doing? What we see in East Bay is the following. From here to here, things really change. Big increase in assets, big increase in debt. There was a lot of money borrowed to build a whole bunch of stuff on this campus. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, but you see what happened. The university had $200 million of assets, then they had $300. They had $80 million of debt, then they had $152 million in debt. All in 1 year this changed. And it's almost all due to capital projects. The system itself has a very high bond rating, which may shock you. How could a bond rating be high? The state of California has a fairly high bond rating. The reason Moody's likes the state and the system is they have predictable revenue sources, even with the state appropriation being like it is. The system, again, revenue versus expenses. This is all the revenues, all the expenses. What does this mean? The system has $6 billion of revenue in 2010. Fund that expenses. There was a $500 million profit by the CSU system in 2009. Mostly on the backs of whom? Students and the workers. They furloughed people. Didn't save them all that much, but saved them enough. And they also cut budgets, got rid of programs, et cetera, et cetera. Tuition and fees, 35%. But having said that, this may surprise you. The state is only 38%. It's not the whole thing. If I quizzed you guys on the way in, handed out a piece of paper, what percent of East Bay comes from Sacramento? You guys would have wrote 60, 70, 80. You know why you've written that? Because that's the way it used to be. Those days are gone, and they're not coming back. 2012, this is going to be a $16 million hit for East Bay. This is your tuition here at East Bay. These are all the other Cal State schools. And again, this is different than the other slides were California versus the other states in the Western region. This is East Bay versus the other 22 institutions in the Cal State system. Okay, so this is a little different. And if we go back here, East Bay's tuition was $17.25. You were the 20th lowest out of 22 institutions at that time. 05, 06, you were almost the lowest. But then look what happens. 15th, and now you're right in the middle of the pack. So over time, East Bay's tuition, compared to the others, has gone up. From my perspective, when it comes to enrollment, the system itself and the state of California, the legislature, is making very, very loud noises about we need measures of output. Before we start sending you $100 million a year to Hayward, California, we want to make sure that students are actually graduating and learning something. This is coming down the road. I promise you, we are going to see future appropriations based on measures such as what's on the screen right now. And this is good, I think, for East Bay. We have it through 2009-10. In general, we had a slight decline in the baccalaureate degrees here. You can see the level here in 9-10, and this is together more than 35 was the best year of any within the last 5. This is a very important measure. Regardless of what's happening to enrollment, are you graduating students here? And in terms of, I think what hurts an institution like this one, and like the one I work, is graduation and retention rates. I think those are more difficult. I know it's difficult here, I know it's difficult at my institution. My students in accounting who get a master's, they do not finish in 6 years. They just don't. First of all, it's a 5-year program. And secondly, very few of our students go to school year-round taking 30 or 40 credits a year. They just don't. Now, what's really happening is something called the underemployment rate. The BLS calls this U6. Unemployment is called U3. And what you do is you take the unemployed people, then you add the people who have given up. They just stopped looking because they're so discouraged. They just given up. And then you add people who are working part-time but want to work full-time. But look at California, 22.1. That means 1 out of 4 to 5 of your fellow citizens are either unemployed, have given up, or not working as they would like. Here it is by college. And I'm a business school professor, so I wasn't thrilled about any of this. Now let's look what the faculty make. These are ADP salary survey. I didn't have all the years. I had 6, 8, 9, 10, 11. Just missing 1 year in there. And you can see, right here, see that decline? This went up just a little, this went down a little for all ranks. So the average faculty salary is now $79,500. I don't live here, but I was not born yesterday. I do not believe this is the easiest region of the country to live in on that salary. All right, administrative salaries. I'm going to show you the salaries from 07 to 010. I'm not putting anybody's name on it. These 103 people made almost $11 million in 2010. The 94 people made 10, 24 million. These are the set mean and median salaries of those administrators. Roughly the top 100 people here are making an average of about 100 grand each. There are significant issues with the state appropriation. I think, having been out to CSU, to several different campuses, the state appropriation hovers over everything. The state itself, the situation, the economic situation of the state hovers over everything. But as bad as we think it is, they're really not broken. What's broken, as I'll show you, are the priorities here. And we're just not putting enough money into the mission. For the students here, the tuition increases have been incredible. They're off the charts. And the state only delivers about 38% of the revenues. And what I've done here is look at instructional expenses. I went back to 2002, which is the first year we actually had financial statements that look like the ones we have now. Look at this percentage back then. This isn't acceptable, but at least it was 42. Why is it now 37? Why is this going down? There's not a good explanation for it. And this, if you work here, or if you're a student here, you should ask the administration, why is the percentage of total expenses devoted to instruction going down so significantly over time? Why? So let me go back to something I talked about earlier, which is audited statements. We always want to focus on these. One, and most importantly, they represent actual results. Budgets are just plans. We all have plans. I make plans, you make plans, we all have budgets. Plans don't meet reality. Audited statements tell us what really happened. And they're also reviewed by an outside independent accounting firm. Budgets are not. Budgets are created by the internal administration and they're not judged by anybody else. We need them. We have to look forward. But we need to take these predicted expenses and revenue. That's supposed to be a grain of salt with a question mark. Now we talk about the transparency, and you guys have to get these statements. There's no substitute for transparency. There's nothing like there's no excuse for not telling us what's going on. What's the excuse? There really is none. We've heard the cost. Oh, it costs money. Yeah, it costs money. But I can show you a couple other things that cost money that you guys shouldn't be doing.